Have you ever noticed that just when you start doing better, your symptoms flare up or you start feeling worse? Maybe your pain increases, your fatigue gets worse, or your anxiety spikes. And maybe you think to yourself, like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. It's making me worse. What if that flare up is actually a sign of progress? I know that sounds insane, but I want to explain why that actually makes sense. Now, when you've lived in survival mode for a long time and you've had chronic pain, fatigue, anxiety, trauma, chronic stress, your nervous system has been conditioned to be in a protective state of bracing, of holding, of clamping everything down, trying to hold it all together, right? And when you finally start to feel safer, when you start a healing process, when you begin doing regulation tools, or when your system senses even a little bit more stability, sometimes the system says, okay, well, now we can finally process this. So it can begin releasing held activation, frozen emotions that often release through sensation, especially if they're pre-verbal or implicit memories. And your symptoms can spike in response to that because the brain may interpret that sensory experience of that release as a threat. Now, there are so many different interpretations of why the brain turns on symptoms. Dr. John Sarno believed that it was to protect from feeling overwhelmed by emotions themselves. So as the emotions come to the surface, the brain will get louder with symptoms, trying to distract from the emotions. I happen to think that if we've been suppressing the release of emotions or sensations or activation for a long time, especially if those things weren't normalized or we didn't get enough co-regulation as children to build more tolerance for them, that the brain is going to see them as threats. Symptoms can spike not because you're getting worse, but because your system is finally letting down and old activation and emotions are finally given a chance to complete themselves. Now, it doesn't mean that every flare-up is a sign of healing, nor does it mean that you should push through flare-ups and short-circuit yourself. But it does mean that feeling worse is often part of the process. And by understanding that, we can create more safety so the experience doesn't get reinforced as a sign of failure. Your body and nervous system begin to thaw when you show them safety. That's just how it works. The key is how you respond. Do you panic and tighten back up and try to shove it all back down? Or are you able to meet it with curiosity and steadiness? Healing isn't linear. Sometimes there's expansion, then contraction, then expansion again. That's how our nervous systems learn resilience through activation, deactivation, activation, deactivation. You're not broken. You may just be recalibrating.